Well, it's finally here. After covering all 20 horses going into this Kentucky Derby individually, it is time to cover them all in one big analysis video. So how this is going to work is that I will quickly summarize my thoughts on each horse. If you want more detail on them, then just check the Derby profiles that I made on them. As well as that, I will add a few things, such as my opinions on their post position if I have to, as well as possibly some things that I may have omitted. Besides that, though, most of what I have to say will be very similar to what I had to say in the Derby profiles. The most important thing, though, is my final picks, which will be at the end of the video. I will give a timestamp in the description for my final picks if you're just interested in that and already know about all my other thoughts on the horses. Without further ado, let's get into it. In post position number 1, we have Known Agenda, who is a bit of a Derby favorite at odds of 6 to 1, and the inside draw isn't exactly favorable. No one likes to be smack dab on the rail when you're in a field of 20 horses. However, I feel like this isn't as big of a deal as some people are saying it is. Some people say that this is just going to be an instant game over for Known Agenda, but I don't think so. Known Agenda has shown to have some ability to move from the rail to the outside, as shown in the Florida Derby, where he was stuck on the rail and then moved to the outside and won. Of course, it'll be a little harder running in the Kentucky Derby, but I still think that talent and ability to navigate through trouble is there. As well as that, he has Irad Ortiz as his jockey, and Irad is like the greatest jockey in the world at the moment, so he'll be able to guide him through way better than most jockeys, if any other jockey. So, with a great jockey and his skill, I'd say Known Agenda will be fine, although the inside post will lead to a few obstacles. I still like him, though. But after Known Agenda, we have a streak of 4 straight 50 to 1 shots from post positions 2 to 5. And, well, some of them I think deserve the 50 to 1 odds, and some don't. First, we got Like the King, who is deserving of these odds. Like the King is a Oscar-nominated type, a horse that makes it in running in the Jeff Ruby, which is of course a synthetic race and not a dirt race, and doesn't really have much dirt skill whatsoever, but is running in it just because, well, you can. And of course, some people think that this horse has the ability to pull off an upset, and all power to them for having faith in this animal, but in my opinion, I just don't think it's there. He's ran twice on dirt, of course they were second place finishes, but he was well beaten by 7 and 11 lengths each, and that's just not a good look. Overall, I'd say that he's a better turf or all-weather horse, so I'm going to toss him. Next is Brooklyn Strong, who along with Hidden Stash is one of the two 50 to 1 shots that is actually worth considering. He had a strong 2-year-old year, which included a win in the Remsen Stakes, which was 2 seconds faster than Kentucky Oaks favorite Malathaat's win in the Demoiselle, which was at the same distance and track conditions. So that's something to consider. The reason why people don't like him is because he had a bad performance in the Wood Memorial, but it was filled with trouble. Only question is, how much of the skill from his 2-year-old year is actually maintained as a 3-year-old? We don't know that yet. Speaking of maintaining skill from his 2-year-old year, next is Keep Me in Mind, whose big claim to fame was a win in the Kentucky Jockey Club Stakes, but since then, he's been nothing but a disappointment, and unlike Brooklyn Strong, he doesn't really have many excuses. No injury plaguing, no rough trips, he just is left behind in the past, and because of that, I'm going to toss him. And rounding out this 50 to 1 group is Sainthood, who got in with a second in the Jeff Ruby Stakes behind Like the King, who's also 50 to 1. Do I really need to say more? I think it's pretty obvious why he's 50 to 1. Okay, I'll say a little more. He raced on dirt and was second by a head and then won by a nose, but his only experience in stakes company was on the synthetic. So, just toss. And now back to the popular long shots. Obezos. I've mentioned Obezos as a very good long shot to use, thanks to his love of fast paces and his great closing style. However, a lot of people have talked about this as well, slimming down his odds to just 20 to 1. So, when it comes to long shots, he isn't as much worth your buck if everyone is looking at him. He fits the long shot archetype a little too well, so if you want more money, then you should look elsewhere. But if you're okay with 20 to 1 odds, then keep Obezos in mind, which is what I will be doing. But I can understand if you want to try and find more money with other horses. Next up, in post position number 7, is Mandaloun, who I believe is not really worth 15 to 1 odds. He was the winner of the Risen Star, but then when he stretched out in the mile and 3/16 Louisiana Derby, he faltered, with absolutely no excuses to be found, and with him being sired by Into Mischief, all signs add up that he's not going to like the Derby distance, and thus is not worth even 15 to 1 odds. I think he'd be better as a 30 to 1 shot. Even then, I still wouldn't pick him. And then we got the Baffert horse, Medina Spirit, who is also 15 to 1. Going into this year's Kentucky Derby, a lot of people were excited for Life is Good, some even calling him the next Secretariat, which is obviously a hilarious exaggeration. However, Life is Good got injured, then everyone was hyping up Concert Tour, but then Concert Tour turned out to be a baby who couldn't handle anything other than a pace all by himself. So all we have left is Medina Spirit, who's kind of the Baffert side horse, and that doesn't really look like a good sign. He's okay for 15 to 1. He's a game horse, but I wouldn't pick him. In post position number 9 for the O'Neill barn, we got Hot Rod Charlie. Hot Rod Charlie is the winner of the Louisiana Derby and has a lot of things pointing his way. He can fight, he can set a fast pace, he can go off the pace, so he's versatile and gutsy, and post position number 9 is a great post to have, so he has a lot of luck on his side when it comes to the Kentucky Derby, and thus makes sense why he's 8 to 1. So if you want an easy, safe horse, then I'd recommend going with Hot Rod Charlie. 8 to 1 is good for him. And right beside Hot Rod Charlie is the horse that finished second to him in the Louisiana Derby, and that's Midnight Bourbon. Currently at 20 to 1, Midnight Bourbon has a lot of things pointing towards his direction. In 7 starts, he's never been worse than third, and these include Grade 1 races. So he's pure consistency, a great thing to have when you're 20 to 1, and his post position of number 10 is a great post to have. So, great post and a consistent horse means that he has a lot of good luck on his side. So if you want a horse worth that 20 to 1 odds, then go with this big guy. But a horse not worth those 20 to 1 odds is Dynamic One. Dynamic One's biggest performances, a main special weight win and a second in the Wood Memorial, were both in hilariously slow times, and he gives off the vibe of horses like Trojan Nation and Tensendur, who didn't really have much going into the Wood Memorial, but had a surprise second place finish, so they made it into the Kentucky Derby, ran like garbage, and then ran like garbage the rest of their lives. He fits that archetype to a T, and because of that, I would not recommend him. Another horse on that not so good recommendation list is Helium. Helium is a horse that I bashed along with a couple other people because of his many things that really just work against him. Mainly the fact that history suggests that he's not going to win this Derby. No horse in modern history since Charismatic has won the Kentucky Derby off a mile and a 16th prep or a 4.5 month layoff. He's just lightly raced and inexperienced, and a lot of things about history just suggest that he's not prepared for this. So, toss. And right beside Helium is another 50 to 1 shot, but I have some nicer things to say about him. That is Hidden Stash. Hidden Stash is a country house archetype. He has had 1 second, 1 third, and 1 fourth over the course of this year, so he's a decent, consistent long shot, and it's very likely that he'll be able to maintain this sort of performance going into the Kentucky Derby if history has anything to say. As every year in the Kentucky Derby, there's one long shot that runs his heart out, and Hidden Stash seems right up there. And then right beside him, we got the Derby favorite, Essential Quality. A lot of people like this horse, and, well, it makes sense. I mean, he is the favorite. He is everything you would want in a favorite. Champion 2-year-old, perfect 5 for 5, has been facing off against some pretty tough horses, such as, say, Highly Motivated. He can fight, he can run, multiple Grade 1 winner. He has everything in that package. So if you've ever wanted the easiest pick of your life, then just go with Essential Quality. And with 5 of the last 7 Kentucky Derbies having the favorite win the race, yeah, I think it's safe to say that the favorite looks pretty appetizing, but not perfect. Right beside him, we got the second choice, Rock Your World. Rock Your World also looks pretty good, although he has a few flaws, mainly his lack of experience. As shown with his lead changes mid-stretch, he isn't exactly a fully experienced and mature horse. He is green, but very talented. And while that isn't, say, an immediate turnoff for me, it is enough for me to not want to exactly use him and bet on him, especially because there's only so many horses you can pick in this Kentucky Derby. I like Rock Your World and think he deserves his odds, but I'm not going to choose him. In post position number 16, we got King Fury, and I mentioned in my Derby profile that if it's a sloppy day and King Fury's odds are good, then I recommend choosing him. However, he's 20 to 1, akin to Obezos, and I made the comparison that King Fury is kind of like another choice for an Obezos type horse. But with them at the same odds and Obezos looking better, just go with Obezos if you're stuck between King Fury and Obezos. Besides that, only pick King Fury if it's a sloppy day. He's a bit too unpredictable for anything else, in my opinion, so only go with him if it rains. And next, it's the dreaded and cursed post position number 17, with Highly Motivated as its next victim. Although I don't think that post position number 17 is going to be the reason why Highly Motivated will lose, I just think that he's a cut below the top tier horses, and considering that he wants to go to the lead, as shown with the Bluegrass Stakes, and isn't exactly a fast breaker, I think those things will work against him when he goes to the Derby. So I think he will have a chance to have a good run, which is why he's 10 to 1, and I believe is deserving of it, but he just doesn't look like a winner to me. He just looks like an alright 10 to 1 choice. Next, in post position number 18, we got Superstock, who is the Asmussen family horse. And while his story is humbling, how good is he as an actual racehorse? Well, he's the winner of the Arkansas Derby, and as I mentioned in my Derby profile, fits the creator archetype a bit too well. He has raced 8 times, has had 2 wins, including the Grade 1 Arkansas Derby. And while you can always make the excuse that creator's 13th place finish was due to a pretty rough trip, which is true, I don't think he would have won if things went smoother. But maybe Superstock will fare better than Creator on Derby Day. I know some people believe he will, and he does look pretty good, but I'm not going to choose him. Although, at odds of 30 to 1, he is very tantalizing. So if you want a Grade 1 winner for 30 to 1 odds, go for him. Another 30 to 1 shot that is worthy to consider is Soup and Sandwich, who is a good choice if you want a horse like Rock Your World, but for good long shot odds. Soup and Sandwich, like Rock Your World, has only raced 3 times and is very green. In fact, he's greener than Rock Your World, with jumping of shadows and lead changes just being a couple of his problems when it comes to maturity. But he is Grade 1 placed behind Known Agenda, which is pretty impressive, although falls a little short of being a Santa Anita Derby winner. And lastly, in post position number 20, we have Bourbonic, who was definitely deserving of his 72 to 1 odds in that Wood Memorial. He definitely earned every penny of that major upset. He looked absolutely awful going into that Wood Memorial. He was a winner in claiming races, and he lost to Market Maven, who was 70 to 1 going into that Wood Memorial. There was nothing in that statistics that suggested that he'd be anything worth a dang. And then he surprised everyone with a very weird Wood Memorial, with that Wood Memorial being exceptionally slow. It's very clear that such a slow Wood Memorial creates some interesting results. And I know there are a lot of people that like this horse and disagree with me on me thinking that he's a fluke, and even some people claiming that they actually betted on him and liked him going into that Wood Memorial, which I highly doubt. No one liked Bourbonic going into that Wood Memorial. I'll be hard-pressed to find anyone who actually had a winning ticket on him, and isn't just saying it to look cool. Anywhoosies, on to Bourbonic. He's a fluke to me. That race just was absolutely out of nowhere. It was a very weird memorial. It was very clear that that horse was deserving of those 72 to 1 odds. I just don't see him doing anything good in that Kentucky Derby. And that concludes all 20 Kentucky Derby horses. Now time for the final picks. Although it's a bit chalky, I will be using Essential Quality as my win bet, and Down Under for place and show, I'll be using Known Agenda, Obezos, and Hidden Stash. Hope you guys enjoyed these Derby analyses and Derby profiles and all the other Derby stuff that I've been doing leading up to this fantastic first Saturday in May. See you guys next time.